Good morning, members of the board. I will briefly walk you through the key strategic issues identified from our strategic audit. The purpose of this review is not to revisit historical performance, but to assess the group strategic position from a forward-looking board perspective. Specifically, we focus on the structural risks and strategic constraints that could affect the group's competitiveness over the next 5 to 10 years. This issue will form the foundation for the SWOT analysis and strategic recommendation presented later. Based on our audit, we identify 4 interrelated strategic issues. Individually, each issue may appear manageable. However, collectively, they shift the group long-term risk profile and strategic flexibility. I will now walk you through this issue briefly before we move into the SWOT analysis. This issue, firstly, is the group's high dependence on the Malaysian domestic market. Approximately 80% of the group revenue continues to be generated domestically, while export contribution has remained relatively stagnant over the past few years. Although domestic sales recorded strong growth in financial year 2024, the Malaysian biscuit market is matured, highly competitive, and increasingly price sensitive. This concentration exposes the group to domestic economic cycles and regulatory changes, and more importantly, creates a structural ceiling on long-term growth without accelerated international exposure. The second issue relates to earning sensitivity to global commodity price movement. Financial year 2024 margin improvement was supported by favorable input cost conditions, particularly lower wheat flour and cornstarch prices. However, this also highlights that the group operates largely as a price taker with limited ability to fully pass cost increases to consumer in the FMCG segment. As a result, profitability remains exposed to commodity cycles, creating potential earnings volatility when input prices normalize or reverse. The third issue concerns product portfolio concentration amid evolving consumer preferences. Currently, the group's revenue remains heavily concentrated in biscuits, with a strong reliance on the traditional cream cracker products. At the same time, consumer demand is gradually shifting towards healthier, functional, and value-added food offerings, particularly among younger demographics. Without stronger innovations beyond heritage products, there is a risk of gradual erosion of brand relevance over time. The fourth issue is governance-related, specifically succession planning and strategic agility. The group's leadership structure provides stability and continuity, supported by long-serving senior management. However, this may also limit strategic renewal, particularly in areas such as digitalization, internationalization, and product diversification. From a long-term perspective, this creates execution risk during future leadership transitions if not proactively managed. Hence, in summary, the group is financially strong but strategically conservative. This issue forms the basis of our SWOT and TOE analysis, which will translate risk into strategic options for the board's consideration. I will now hand over to my colleague Tan to walk through the SWOT analysis.
Thank you, Wee Kiong. Good morning, everyone. For SWOT analysis, I will talk about the S and the W. The S, strength. Strength refers to internal capability, resources, and advantage that enable a company to compete effectively and create value. The purpose of identifying strength is to understand what the company does well and how this advantage can be leveraged to sustain competitiveness. From the strategic audit, we found that Seng key strength lies in its established brand presence. Seng has strong brand recognition in Malaysia, with more than 6 decades in the FMCG industry. Products like Ping Pong cream cracker trusted by generation of consumers. This brand familiarity provides stability in highly competitive and price-sensitive market. Another major strength is Seng halal certificates and food safety compliance. It complies with Food Act 1983 and Food Regulation 1985, and strong halal branding which reinforce consumer confidence and allow the company to access both domestic and Muslim majority export markets. In addition, Seng sources 97% of its raw materials locally, reducing dependence on imports and lowering exposure to global supply chain disruptions. When we look into its financial, Seng operates with a low debt or debt-free structure. Hapseng's strong cash position and no gearing provide financial flexibility and resilience during economic downturns and cost inflation. Lastly, Hapseng export market diversification, which contribute about 20% of revenue, also provide income diversification beyond the domestic market. In conclusion, all these strengths form a solid foundation that supports Hapseng resilience and operational continuity. For W, weaknesses are internal limitation or efficiency that reduce efficiency, competitiveness, or responsiveness to market changes. The purpose of identifying weaknesses is to highlight areas that require improvement in order to prevent long-term decline. Despite its strong legacy, Hapseng faces several internal weaknesses. A key weakness is Hapseng lack in product innovation. Many of Hapseng core products remain traditionally and are perceived as oily and less healthy. It does not align well with changing consumer preference such as low-fat and functional snack. Secondly, Hapseng also has weak digital and e-commerce capabilities. We found out that Hapseng has limited online presence in e-commerce, social media branding, or direct-to-consumer platforms such as TikTok Shop or Shopee, especially when compared to newer digital-first competitors. In terms of operationally, Hapseng still rely heavily on manual or semi-auto manufacturing, which constrain productivity improvement and cost efficiency. Furthermore, the business category itself is highly commoditized. The low product differentiation leads to low brand stickiness and consumer loyalty. Lastly, although Hapseng has export exposure, it remains highly dependent on the domestic market, which is mature and highly competitive. The weaknesses reduce Hapseng agility in responding to rapid market shift. Next, I pass the mic to Ms. Chan for her presentation.
Okay, thank you. Opportunity are external trends in the business environment that a company can take advantage of to grow, innovate, or enhance its market positions. So by identifying opportunity, Hapseng can proactively innovate, align with the changing market dynamic, and stay ahead of competitors. So health-conscious consumers are driving demand for low-calorie, high-fiber, and clean-label snack. Hapseng can diversify his portfolio with healthier options like whole grain, crackers, or functional biscuits with added probiotic to attract his growing market. Besides, with the government support for automation and digitalization, Hapseng can modernize operation and scale up its digital presence. E-commerce, online branding, and direct-to-consumer channel are the key to reaching younger audience and reducing dependency on traditional retail. So in addition, sustainability is no longer optional. Hapseng has opportunity to lead in ESG by switching to biodegradable packaging, adopting energy efficient machinery, and improve supply chain transparency. This will enhance the brand value and attract ESG-focused investors. So on the other hand, currently exporting to over 20 countries, Hapseng can grow its global presence by targeting fast-growing halal markets such as Indonesia and Middle East. Its existing halal certifications provide a clear competitive edge in these regions. Last but not least, right now, Gen Z prefer ethical and sustainable brands. Hapseng can rebrand with purpose-driven campaign and eco-friendly product to build relevance with young consumer, ensuring long-term loyalty and brand renewal. So move to the threats. Threats are external factors that might negatively impact company performance or competitive weakness. So by recognizing threats, it helps Hapseng to prepare the strategy to manage the risk and stay resilient in dynamic environment. So right now, Hapseng faces stiff competition from both global players and local brands. So in addition, a private label product and online first snack brand create pricing pressure, forcing Hapseng to innovate and defend his market. In addition, pricing of key ingredients like sugar, palm oil are volatile due to the global conflict and supply chain issue. This threatens Hapseng margin, especially since it operates in a price-sensitive HMCG market. So in addition, supermarket and hypermarket demand bulk discount. and promotional support. So this will reduce Seng pricing flexibility and increase pressure on profitability. So for health conscious consumer also switching to the low bar, low sugar snack and imported product. Without product innovation, Seng risks becoming irrelevant to younger, health-aware buyers. Lastly, labor law changes such as higher minimum wages, EPF for foreign workers, and regulatory compliance like anti-corruption control, MSCC Act increase the operational cost and legal risk. So next, I will pass to Cherry on recommendations.
Thank you, Chan. So we have developed, next slide, please. So we have developed a 4-point strategy for future growth. How do we do execute it? For first, product liberalization. So we move away from the reliance on the traditional biscuits. We will introduce a natural, a line of the oat and seed-based functional snack to capture the modern health market. Second, aggressive international expansion. We need to break the domestic ceiling. This goal is to increase export revenue to 35% by targeting Asian and Middle East market, especially for the leveraging Malaysia halal certification as a competitive advantage. Third, digital transformation. This is a twofold. First, implementing smart manufacturing to reduce the manual labor reliance. Second, launching direct-to-consumer channels on the platform like the TikTok, Shopee, or Lazada to own our customer data. Fourth, governance reform. Finally, we must to address the key person risk. This force is currently aging and family dominant. So we propose to integrating professional non-family executive into the C-suite to drive this modernization. So next slide, please. So how do we to conduct this? How to conduct the strategy? And then here to make this transition, we did conduct a TOWS analysis to match their internal strength against the external opportunity and threats. We identify 2 critical strategy directions. First, aggressive automation. We propose Seng to using the high cash reserve as a strength to invest in the industry 4.0 as an opportunity. This counter-rising labor costs. Second, defensive pivot. We must leverage the immense trust in the Chap Pimpong plan to launch a healthier product line. This defends against the threat of a changing consumer preference. Essentially, we are using the financial health and the brand equity to buy their way into the future. So let's go to the conclusion of this whole study analysis. Next slide, please. In the conclusion, Seng have a foundation, but in lack of the vehicle for growth. By diversifying of the product line, expanding to the global footprint, and modernizing operation, we can ensure that this heritage brand remain profitable and then can accompany the next and our future generation. Thank you.
Thank you.